Hello and welcome to this review of my Chicony KB-5191. It was made in 1991 in Thailand, and just like last week's video, this board is actually a gift from someone for me to do a review on, which is cool because I've been quite curious about it, so thanks Miriam. It's in a pretty good condition too. It's seen some use but not too much, and there's little in the way of dust in it, which is nice. As with many Chicony keyboards, this model could come with a wide variety of switches including cherries, Mitsumis and Futabas, and this particular one has yellow miniature Mitsumis, which are an intriguing tactile switch with Cherry MX compatible mount. They're pretty small both front to back and bottom to top, but still they retain full travel. In fact, at 4.5mm they travel further than many designs such as Alps and Cherries. Here's one next to a Cherry MX Blue switch for size comparison. As you can see, it's really petite in a cutesy sort of way. And there's also a considerable difference in height, as you can see. They also have as many as 6 legs, of which the middle 2 are connected to form an integrated jumper. And the switches have a metal top, but it's been reported to break easily if you yank the caps off the switches without being careful. And they're not easy to disassemble either. I think you're supposed to lift this side panel up, but I'm not really willing to break this switch, so I'm going to leave it as it is right now. Now, just before I got this keyboard, 2 people made a rather intriguing remark about these switches, and that's that when you're playing around with the loose switches, they seem great, really nice, but when you use them in a board, they fail to deliver. And that got me wondering, what could that mean? What could cause something like that? Fortunately, this loose switch got donated to me along with the keyboard, so I could play around with it and figure out what they were trying to get at. And after some toying around with the switch and using the keyboard for the customary week, I have to say I completely agree with their assessment. When you play around with them, they feel great, quite smooth, sprightly, and extremely tactile. Look at that tactile bump right there. It really gives a long way. It's generated by a horizontal bent spring slung under the slider that gives at some point, in a way making this an orthogonal buckling spring design. Very interesting idea. But when you try them in a keyboard, holy crap, they completely go to shit. The key feels rough beyond belief, and a lot of that lovely tactility simply vanishes into thin air. What happens is that the slider catches on the slider well if you press it anything but dead center, and it makes the key feel almost unbearable. It makes you think that all the keys should have their own stabilizers, which would work, by the way, because the stabilized keys handle just fine and feel much better. It reminds me of the Syncan I reviewed recently, which also got stuck if you didn't press them perfectly. Such a shame, massive waste of potential, although the stabilized keys on that were even worse. They make a pretty bad noise too. It's very dry and reminiscent of the sound of ringing plastic, a little bit like a loud rubber dome board. Some of the keys make a horrible squeaky noise when you press them. Now when you're bottoming out hard, you might not even hear it, but when you press a little softer, it's horrible. The backspace key has it especially badly. It sounds like a small animal being tortured. The case design isn't as sturdy or quite as well made as the earlier 5161, of which I've reviewed 2 earlier. It's pretty light, just under a kilo, and nothing about it really shouts, "I'm a quality product." In fact, the case has a fair amount of flex in it. Let me demonstrate that for you. See, that's quite an alarming amount, actually. It's got an OK coiled cable, which isn't too bad, and it uses an old 5-pin DIN AT plug. The backside shows this model sticker, which is a bit more elaborate than the ones on my 5161s, but it does have the same little golden quality control sticker on it. It's got this small grille at the back, which has nothing behind it, by the way, and it uses simple but effective flip-out feet, which also has the AT-XT switch behind it. And just like on my 5161s, the cable comes out rather messily. It's not the most elegant I've ever seen. The keycaps aren't very high quality either. It's pad printed ABS, and together with the light weight and strange sound, you'd be forgiven if you accidentally mistook this keyboard for a rubber dome one. It's not even rimless pad printing like on the 5161, you can clearly see the edges of the stickers. Chicony did use a fairly nice font though, to be fair, so at least they don't look ugly. And of course these particular switches are MX compatible, so it's pretty easy to stick some much nicer caps on. A fun detail is that it's got a fourth indicator light, a power light to be exact, but it reads online, strangely enough. Now, when I judge a keyboard, I always try to weigh out pros and cons. So even for really good keyboards, I try to find weaknesses, and for shitty ones, I try to find redeeming features. But as hard as I try, there isn't all that much to be redeemed here, to be brutally honest. The build quality is subpar, the caps are cheaply made, it doesn't make a good sound, and above all, the key feel barely qualifies as usable. If only Mitsumi had made the sliders better, this would have been a lovely keyboard to type on at the least, but maybe there is a way to somehow lube these switches so they don't jam as much, but considering it's not easy to open these, that would be quite a faff, so in the meantime, I wouldn't recommend it. That's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, thanks for watching, and following is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.